This is Chad Shapiro with the Believers Business League, and I want to encourage you to find us on Facebook at the Believers Business League fan page, where we post all kind of events. And today we're actually celebrating one of our members and having a member spotlight interview with James Webb and High Five God. We're so excited that you are here, one of the loyal members that is part of a Believers Business League. And I just want to start off right off the bat. What's your background? Tell me the origin of your story. How did you get to where you are today?
I am a son of a pastor, Pastor Barbara Webb, that's my mother, and also an Army brat. My dad was a drill instructor, so I usually say when I was growing up that my mother would always preach, put God first, son, and then my dad would drill it in your head, put God first, son. You know,
Yeah.
What's that? So then after I left the house, I joined the Marine Corps, where I learned a lot of values of leadership and principle, respect, the things that matter for life. I learned those things in the Marine Corps. A real funny story is in the Marine Corps, when I was graduating, my parents came down, and we were all in this group, and we were kind of talking to my drill instructor. And he was saying, we were talking about all kinds of things, and he was asking questions, and my mother asked me a question, and I said, yes, ma'am, as a response. And the drill instructor was like, see what we done for him? And she was like, oh, no. I put that in him. You maybe solidified it, but I put that in him. Yeah. And that was it. That's kind of from my mother, that those leadership, those principles, those values, how to treat people, how to live life, those things came from my mother, Pastor Webb, and then they were drilled, like I said, by my father, who was a drill instructor.
Oh man, I love it. And that led you to eventually creating James Webb International. What events kind of led up to that?
Yeah, I was living in Florida at the time, and I was working for this company, and they had a layoff. A group of us were laid off. It was a kind of a last in, first out kind of a thing, and I happened to be in that group. And I went home, and I was talking to God about it. I was on the couch, and I was actually talking to God about what to do next.
Yeah.
Okay, what's my next step, God? And James Webb International came into my mind. What James Webb International was, I can do those same things that I'm doing for a company. I can do those things and give them the values, give them the principles, and the things, the benefits of what I learned in government, what I learned in military, what I learned through my mother's spiritual background. Mm-hmm. I can give those things through James Webb more easily than I can at another company. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, create James Webb International, and then start working contract work so you can push those values out as you know them.
Yeah, terrific. And that kind of led us to High Five God. Let's shift gears if we could with that for today. What inspired you to start High Five God?
High Five God, I'm loving this. At the time, I was going through a pretty emotional time. This was pretty tough for me. It's pretty emotional. And there was a series of events that kept happening to me where God was telling me, don't stop believing. My faith was waning. I was really starting to doubt. Mm-hmm. And a series of things happened, and God kept telling me, don't stop believing. But I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
You got to be listening. Yeah. But I wasn't listening. And so after I turned my concerns away from me and started helping other people, witnessing, helping, giving spiritual advice, telling them how to deal with things in their own homes, backed by spiritual scripture, how to deal with these things. Until that happened, it didn't dawn on me till God gave me my answers until I started helping somebody else. Right. Once I did start helping someone else, it was just like a high five God. I mean, just a real high five God. The answer came to me, and I'm like, okay, I hear you. Now I hear you. Yeah. And it's that moment, that's where the high five God came from. And I started pushing those values. Okay, now I know. Push this instead of that, which was his values, the things that I know that are true to me, the Christian values, even in workplace. It doesn't matter if you're at your workplace, at your home, if you're a parent, or if you're a teen growing up. Those values help, and they push you through life. And that's why I'm like, I can use this and contribute this to the world. This is my background. Yeah. Contribute this. This is what you contribute to the world, James.
Yeah.
And that's where High Five God started coming in. So, but you have to be ready for those soft whispers, because God doesn't have a booming voice, and it's not written on the wall, and it's not going to come someone that's out of the blue. God told me to tell you this. It's not like that. God has those simple, soft whispers, but you got to be listening to him. And then when you listen, you'll hear those hear those High Five God moments come to you.
I like that. What was the moment that you saw High Five God in action as a success?
I was calling one of my friends and telling them that I was starting this High Five God movement, if you will. And she was telling me, or she was asking me about High Five God, and I was kind of telling her. And then she said, is this an instance, James? So she told me her story. And she said that she was out running one day, working out running. And she said that she heard a voice to her say, we all say we heard a voice, but it's within us. And she said she heard a voice that says, you need to be a foster mom. You need to be a foster mom. And so she said it loomed in her for a while, for a few days, and it just rolled around in her head, and she didn't know what that was saying. So she said I'm gonna step into this and see what happens if I do this. So she said she starts cleaning out her house. She has a big house and all her kids are gone.
Yeah.
And so she has extra room and all this. So she starts clearing out rooms, start buying brand new beds, start doing all these things to get ready for these kids, for these foster kids. So she said that as she was cleaning the boxes, she opened up one box and she was reading some letters, and she read a letter when she was 11 years old that she wrote to her parents saying that she wanted to be a foster mom when she grows up. Wow. I mean, that's High Five God.
Yeah,
that's a moment right there. And so I'm seeing that in action, and she's all excited about it. So I keep in touch with her weekly almost, and just to talk about her progress and how she's doing that. She's going along. All the paperwork is accepted. You know, she's doing interviews, and she's all jacked up and hyped up about this. Now that's High Five God speaking to you. So that's a good moment, because God's saying, yes, do this. And you hear it. When you hear it, soft whisper.
Yeah.
No one's around. Might be no one's around. It's just you and God. High Five.
High Five God. I love it. So High Five God is really a larger than life concept. And while there's so many different takeaways we could get into with High Five God, what is the one thing that you would like to share and piece of it that you'd like us to be aware of listening to here today?
Well, many don't know that in the evenings I drive Uber and Lyft. It's a great way to meet people. It's a great way. You know how I am. So I'm always talking. So it's a great way to meet all different kinds of people. And one of the big things I've noticed, a friend of mine asked me, since you started doing this, what have you noticed? One big thing that I've noticed was that most people are just trying to make it. Life throws all kinds of curveballs at you, all kinds. And most people that I'm talking to are really just trying to make it, you know? And so, of course, I start telling them about their values, about their lives, and give them inspiration. A lot of them want to get out of the car and hug me when they're, or they want to stay in. Can we talk more? Can I get a copy of your book? Can I, because everyone needs that. That inspiration. So I had a young lady get in a car, and she was telling me that her stories of what she was going through. She was going through a tough time. And so I started not just witnessing to her, just talking to her. Telling her about her story, telling her about how life works. And so I told her, I said, for the change that you're trying to make, for her change, you need to work on your values. Do you know what your values are? You identify your values because your values direct you to where you are. So I said, so what are your values? And she says, well, I like this. No. Not that I like this or I want to do this. No. What drives you? What absolutely makes your heart say yes, or put the motivation in this even when it's tough to keep going? Those are your values. So what are your values? She says, I don't know them then. I said, you know that you can go online and you can assess yourself. She said, I didn't even know that there was something that could do that. Yes, you can assess your values because your values direct your whole life, your successes and failures. Your values do that. So I started talking to her about her values. So in that, I'm saying there are stories out there that I don't know all the stories. I'm going to put this in my book, and I'm teaching values and how they intertwine your life and mold your life and direct your life. But I don't have all the stories. The biggest thing the biggest takeaway is I need everyone's stories. Send me your stories, because I could use those stories, your testimonies of how God blessed you, or how God high-fived you at a moment, and I can use those stories to solidify what we're trying to do with High Five God and push the values out there, because we know that there is a lack of values in our country today, and we need those values to put us in a direction of where we can grow as a country, as a people. Yeah, and so there's values, there's stories I want in leadership, values and stories that I want being a parent or being a teen, how to grow your team, how to be a spiritual leader. Those things are huge. And so I want those stories. I need those stories to put in my book to solidify the points that I have for driving value. So that's the biggest takeaway that I would like for everyone to know.
How could we get you those stories? Those of us listening here today, sitting in the car or the apartment, in the house, and we're like, oh man, I know God has been so good, and he did high five me. I love that. So how do I get James Webb the story?
Go to www.highfivegod, the number 5, God.com. High, H-I-G-H, the number 5, G-O-D.com. And then you'll see there's a whole page of how you can submit your stories, the description of how you do it, and then I would take those stories, and if I use those stories, you could be monetarily compensated.
Okay. So thank you guys for listening. This is one of our faithful members of the Believers Business League. He has actually spoken at one of the events, and he is an incredible leader and networker. We'd love to have you come out to our events.
Yes.
Believers Business League Facebook page, where you can register there. Take care. God bless you. High five God. Let's do it. Yes.